Would you go ahead and introduce yourself as well and give us your DOC number?
My name is Thomas Bowers. My DOC number is 730205.
Mr. Bowers, I want to explain our procedure to you. I'm going to read some information into the record, and then we're going to conduct a parole interview with you. Once that interview is finished, you can make a statement to the board, anything you'd like to say, a short statement, and then we'll vote. Do you understand how our process works?
Yes, sir.
This is the matter of Thomas Bowers, 730205, date of birth, August the 8th of 1973. He's a first-class offender. He has a parole eligibility date of May the 17th of 2023, an adjusted good time date of May the 22nd of 2024, and a full term date of May the 17th of 2038. He is currently serving a 20-year sentence on the charge of vehicular homicide, having been sentenced on May the 21st of 2018. Mr. Bowers, is that information basically correct?
That information is correct.
Bowers, I'm going to go back on to the record to introduce some guests that we have here today who wish to be heard. In support of you today is Ms. Bridget Bowers, who wishes to speak. Thomas Bowers, who wishes to speak. I'm sorry, Matthew McKee, who wishes to speak. Jennifer Brooks, who wishes to speak. And Michael, who does not wish to speak. In opposition, we have Reagan Fosho, and I can't read the first name, but the last name is Coots, present here in the courtroom. We have several other people, but I only have two names. Okay. I have only two, yes.
I'm Phyllis Billingsley, and this is Mallory Combs. I'm going to get you a card.
And what is your name, ma'am?
Phyllis Billingsley.
And are you wishing to speak as well? Okay. We have Miss Phyllis Billingsley, and is there someone else whose name I didn't mention? Ms. Lacombe, do you wish to speak as well? Okay. Mr. Bowers, after we conduct our interview with you, we will allow those persons that I mentioned a few moments ago, both in support and in opposition to your parole, to speak. And once they have their input, then you'll have an opportunity to talk with the board, give the board a statement, and then we'll vote. Do you understand our process?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as I said earlier, your case has been assigned to Ms. Bonnie Jackson, and Ms. Jackson will begin the interview process. So we were there when everyone was coming into the room. So we'll begin that process. Ms. Jackson, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. Well, we'll just start over. Ms. Bowers, you are 49 years old, is correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you have served a little over 5 years of this sentence. You received a 20-year sentence for vehicular homicide. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And your good time date is less than a year away. It's May 22nd, 2024. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Where have you been housed for the most of your incarceration?
I served most of my time at the Dixon Correctional Institute.
Okay. And how long were you at Dixon?
About 3 years, ma'am.
And
Or probably about 2 years. I'm sorry.
how long have you been in the work release program?
2 years and 2 months, ma'am.
Well, tell me about this incident where you were under the influence of alcohol and you caused this collision that resulted in the death of the victim.
I was driving home from Pool League one night. I was severely intoxicated. I had my dome light on. I just never saw them.
How much did you have to drink that night?
I honestly don't remember, ma'am. probably at least 10 or 12.
Give me an idea. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Probably 10 or 12 beers and a couple shots of whiskey.
So that is a lot of alcohol.
Yes, ma'am.
Apparently you had built up quite a tolerance for alcohol.
Yes, ma'am. I've been drinking most of my life.
So you're an alcoholic?
Yes, ma'am, I would say I am.
Okay. I mean, you seem to be a little hesitant about that.
Well,
Do you seriously believe that you're an alcoholic?
yes, ma'am, I do.
How often were you drinking? What was your drinking habits like back then?
I was pretty much a beer drinker every day,
Okay. So how much would you drink every day?
at least a 6-pack a day.
Had you had any kind of substance abuse treatment? Had you tried to deal with your drinking prior to the incident that led to the death of the victim?
A few years before, I had attended some AA meetings.
Why?
But going to them
Why did you attend the AA meeting?
because I had been previously charged with the DUI, but I was under the legal limit, so the charges were dismissed. But after that, I decided that maybe I should get some help, so I started going to some AA meetings.
And how long did that last going to AA meetings?
I went for about a year, and then I just quit going.
Why?
I honestly couldn't tell you, ma'am. I just got busy with work, and
And went back to drinking?
yes, ma'am.
How many times have you been arrested for DWI?
Just twice, ma'am. And the first time the charges were dismissed.
The second time you were involved in this collision?
Yes, ma'am. The second time I was involved in the collision that took Mr. Billingsley's life.
As I was looking at your program, I see that you got a GED and a high set, your age, that you were a pride member, and those were things that you probably did at Dixon. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But I don't see anything related to substance abuse. I don't see any programming related to substance abuse.
I was in AA at Dixon. There's
Well,
several certificates in my file. I also took
but tell me what the certificates are, because again, I can only go on the record, and what the record shows that you've
my AA meetings pretty much the whole time I was at Dixon.
anything besides NA and AA.
Living in Balance. I took Living in Balance 1 and 2.
Okay.
Those were about the only courses I could take because I had a full-time job while I was at Dixon. So I was limited to the programs I could enlist in.
What was your full-time job at Dixon?
I worked for the Baton Rouge janitorial program. I was the attendant at the Senate chamber at the state capitol.
Well, the point is, those were things that you elected to do. Those were things that you could have chosen instead to get programming, but you chose the work situation. Is that correct?
No, ma'am, that's not correct.
Okay, tell me why it's not correct.
Because when you're at DCI, they give you a job and you do it, and there is no not doing it. I was assigned to the Baton Rouge janitorial program. You don't get to say no.
Well, tell me what the working hours were for that.
Monday through Saturday, we would leave about 5 a.m. and we would get back about 5 p.m.
And they didn't have any programs after 5.
The AANA was about the only thing I could take, and because they were done at night in my unit.
So when were you able to take Living in Balance?
That was also done at night in my unit, as was Your Age.
But the reality is the only real substance abuse education you've had was living in balance, and you had done some AA.
Well, after the accident, I enrolled myself in a 28-day rehabilitation program at the Capital Area Rehabilitation Center. And then I proceeded to go to AA meetings pretty much until the time I was incarcerated.
And where's your job now at work release?
I work at Gosnell's Mobile Container Repair. We fix dumpsters and trash compactors.
And you've done that for about 2 years?
2 years, ma'am.
And how did you end up in work release?
I'm sorry, ma'am.
How did you end up in work release?
When it's your time to go to work release, you're automatically shipped to work release when you're eligible.
So tell me something you learned from living in balance.
I learned to take it every day, to just take one day at a time, to try to think before you speak. But when you get angry, to try and take a step back and look at the situation
Sounds like,
before you react.
that sounds like cage your rage.
We learned that in living in balance too, ma'am.
Well, the living in balance addresses substance abuse issues. But you aren't necessarily on the same track as anger. I want to know what insight you gained about your addiction.
Well, I learned to look at the reasons why I drank.
Yeah.
The main thing I figured out was that I drank because I was unhappy. And that I had formed habits. I mean, my parents were drinkers. My whole family were drinkers. I've been drinking since I was 11 years old now. And I just learned to change my environment, to look at things differently, to not focus on the negative things in my life, but to focus on the positive things in my life. And just learn to try to control my urges and my habits.
How does one do that? You come from a family, sounds like, of alcoholics. You yourself are an alcoholic, and just can control things, then nobody would be an alcoholic. There has to be some definite steps and tools that you've learned to enable you. You said you went to AA for almost a year, and then you went back drinking before you caused this collision. So what tools have you learned or acquired that would?
Well, most of that I acquired from the AA meetings, ma'am, from the 12 steps. And you just repeat them and you go back through them. Once you get to number 12, you go back to number 1 and you start over again. And you just follow the program.
So what did you learn about triggers?
Well, I learned about triggers, about the people, places, and things.
I said, what did you learn personally? I know what they are, people, places, and things. What are your people, places, and things? And how do you avoid those people, places, and things?
Well,
So
I started avoiding them right after the accident, ma'am. I quit going.
Okay, you can have people. Who are the people you need to avoid?
The people that I used to hang out with at the bar, at the pool league, the people in the neighborhood I used to live in. I moved away from there right after the accident. I moved in with my wife out in Central. I started spending more time with her family instead of with old friends. I started spending more time with my son. I spent more time with my mom until we lost her recently, but I basically just changed my way of life. I started staying home more and working on hobbies and projects and just occupying my time in a different way than going to a bar.
Where are your places?
My places right now are, well, I mean,
Triggers that are your trigger.
places that are my triggers, basically bars, but I don't go to bars anymore, man. After the accident, I quit going out. I went home after work. I didn't stop for a beer. I didn't go to a friend's house, or I didn't go to parties or anything. I just went home to avoid any part of that life that I was living before.
Have you taken victim awareness?
No, ma'am.
We'll come back to that. I see you've only had one disciplinary write-up. It was from January 13th of 20. It was an aggravated work offense. Tell us about that.
It was inauguration day. We were working in the rain, and we were soaking wet. We were freezing cold. We couldn't get raincoats. All I asked for was a raincoat and something to dry off with. And I got an aggravated work offense.
Well, I mean, what did you mean? Tell me what happened. I know nobody wanted to be out in the rain and cold, but they didn't get a write-up. So what did you do to cause you to get a write-up?
I asked for a raincoat and a towel, ma'am. That is literally all I did.
Well, because I have the report in front of me. It says on the above date and approximate time, which was 10:30 a.m. while on bus D73, I Sergeant Wanda Jackson, giving instructions to the offenders on the bus, at which time I, Sergeant Wanda Jackson, gave a direct verbal order to offender Thomas Bowers to stop talking. This offender turned toward me with a mad face and a threatening tone of voice. Offender Thomas Bowers stated that he did not want to be out here. Call some damn body to come and get me. I don't care about no damn block. And so she notified Lieutenant Fabian Brown of the incident, and you were placed in segregation. And you were found guilty of that violation. And you got 2 days of extra duty and 5 days of room confinement. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was in 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Bowers, we've been talking about you so far. Let's talk about the victims in this case. What do you think the victim of the injury has experienced? And what do you think the victim of the young man who was killed has gone through?
I can only imagine what they've gone through, ma'am.
Well, Matt, show me that you can imagine.
I know they've been through a lot of pain and a lot of suffering. And I know that there's no way they can get back what they lost, ma'am. I understand that. If I could go back in time and I could trade places.
Everybody says that you can't go back in time. I want to hear how you think your actions have impacted this family.
Like I said, ma'am, I caused them a lot of pain and suffering. I mean, I'm sure that every day they wake up missing Richard. I'm sure that every day they go to sleep missing him, and that they cry and that they're in pain. And I lost my sister, so I kind of understand where they're coming from. It's a pain that doesn't go away. It just doesn't.
How did you lose your sister?
She was killed by a hit and run driver, ma'am.
And when did that happen?
1992, I believe. It's been a long time. They found her in a ditch the next morning. They never,
And yet that didn't register with you when you got behind the wheel of a vehicle by your own admission, horribly impaired. You didn't make any connection between your actions and what happened to your sister and what can happen to other people who have the misfortune of being on the road with you.
no, ma'am. That night I was in a bad place. I was severely intoxicated and I wasn't thinking.
All right, is there anyone in the room with you from the work program?
Warden Matthews is here, ma'am.
Warden Matthews, is there anything you want to add?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Only thing I want to add is that, yes, when Thomas got here in 2021, he did kind of have like a little anger issues or whatever, but I know what it's probably because of his situation or whatever. But since he's been here, I mean, he's turned into one of my model offenders. He goes to work. We have no problem, on his job site from his bosses there. No problem here. On his off days when he's not at work, he volunteers and does stuff around the work release. So he has shown positivity as far as he's been here.
All right, thank you, Warden.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Marvell, that's all I have.
Thank you. Now we're going to hear from your supporters. First, we'll hear from Ms. Bridget Bowers.
You can let my daughter speak instead.
Okay, and your daughter is,
Jennifer.
ma'am, if you would go up to the podium, please, introduce yourself and tell us what it is you'd like us to know.
Good morning. Well, y'all know, I'm Jennifer, and Thomas Bowers is my stepdad. I'm writing this letter to advocate for him, obviously, for his control consideration. And about his current situation with being part of convicted homicide. We understand the severity of the crime committed, and I don't wish to undermine any involved suffers at all from the guys. I couldn't imagine, honestly. And that's not what I wish to get out of this letter, but I do want to advocate the growth and the personal positivity I've seen of him. He has undergone, like I said, significant growth and rehabilitation during his time incarcerated. I truly do believe in his ability to reintegrate into society and be productive. I don't, since his incarceration, he has actively engaged, like he said, in self-improvement and shown remorse for his actions. He's taken advantage of all available educational programs. He was valedictorian for his GED. So he does, he took it very serious. He also helps other inmates to learn to read, to write, and, to get their education also. He pushes other inmates to not want to be in that situation that he unfortunately is in. Through these programs, I think he's definitely gained a deeper understanding of the consequences of his actions and has made a genuine effort to address his past mistakes. I don't know if there's a day that he also doesn't think about it. Like he says, I know you guys are always thinking about it, and we truly are sorry. But he, it took a big impact on him too. His son is close to the same age as so he has to look and deal with that also. And so during these last 5 years, like I said, he's remained good conduct. He has hard work, dedication. He's dedicated to any task they give him. He has remained very close ties with all his family despite the circumstances. That's why we're all here. Make sure to have phone calls, letters, to stay engaged in our lives as much as he can through phone, through email. And he deeply understands the magnitude of his actions and the actions of the victims. And I know that he has a strong desire to make amends with them when they're ready or when he's able to. He will come home to a stable home, stable family. We're not drinkers. He'll be in a very good environment. He has, like I said, the support of his cousin, nephew, son, and he will continue his current employment at mobile container repair. They've already said that he would absolutely have a job there, and so he will continue that. But considering the progress that he's made through his incarceration and the behavior of the support system that you all have for him, I respectfully request that you guys consider granting him parole. That way he can begin to lead a life outside of prison walls and get to enjoy his grandchildren, his wife, his kids, and prove to society and himself that he is better than the man he was.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. We appreciate your comments. Now we'll hear from Mr. Matthew McKee.
Appreciate you allowing me to speak. Matthew McKee. Thomas Bowers, or Uncle Jay to me, is my uncle. I would say I've probably known him definitely longer than anybody here, so around 40 years. He's been a good man his whole life. You can see here he had a substance abuse issue, and I know the consequences of the actions that led to this particular circumstances have weighed heavily on him. I've maintained contact with him throughout these 5 years, and I know that he has changed his decision-making processes as a result of that. And, I'm qualified. After 22 years of military service, I've seen a lot of bad decisions and seen a lot of what comes after that. And I feel that he has certainly changed his way that he will deal with situations in the future. And I also want to argue with something that he said just a bit, and he said that his entire family were alcoholics, but we are not. We will be here with him as he continues his rehabilitation process and attempts to make restitution of this. So I appreciate it, and I ask that you please grant this.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments, Mr. McKee. Now we'll hear from the family. Ms. Phyllis Billingsley.
Not a good public figure, so I
That's
was
okay.
gonna-
We just want to hear what you have to say, ma'am. Take your time, take as much time as you.
And you still listen. And I'm Ricky's mom. I hope you were able to read my statement. I do not envy your job. I hope the time you have spent doing your job has not caused you to become desensitized to these situations. I'm here to tell you, nothing you can do or say will fill the empty spot in my heart that was caused by the death of my precious son. Ricky was smart, funny, and kind. He was 18. He was looking forward to going to LSU. He was so excited about that. He was not the one out drinking. He helped people in so many ways. His friend needed help and he immediately ran out to help her. This is what he was doing when he was killed. And Bowers did not go check on him. We live in a state where people like to drink. Until the justice system continuously imposes the strictest sentencing on people who drink and drive, I think people will continue to do it. Perhaps if Bowers had to go to jail in his first offense, my Ricky would still be here and I would not be standing in front of you. Bowers has been in the transitional work program, so he's halfway out anyway. I'm here today to ask that you place all conditions you can on Bowers when you release him. My cousin's wife was killed the same year as Ricky by a 6th offense drunk driving. I pray that Bowers does not become a repeat offender. I pray that Bowers doesn't kill again. After Ricky was killed, I was diagnosed with PTSD. This kind of loss has effects that will last the rest of my life. And there's a myth out there that says time kills all wounds. That is not true. The pain doesn't go away. You just learn how to hide it better. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We appreciate your comments. Now we'll hear from Ms. Madeline McCall.
name is Madeline McComb. My maiden name is Madeline Billingsley. I'm Ricky's sister. I'm 21. I've now lived 3 years longer than my brother, who was 5 years older than me. The guilt that I feel every single day. Things that I get to do, like getting married. I put off going to school, to college, because he was so excited. He loved learning, and I feel guilty knowing that I didn't like learning as much, and that he didn't get the chance. When I was 13, I saw my brother's blood on the road after that accident. Whenever I was 13, I was told by multiple people whose siblings knew my brother that others came in laughing at court, and the guilt and the pain and the hatred and the sadness that I feel every single day because of that. My brother was amazing. He will never get to know his future kids, my future kids. All they have is memories. I have been so depressed to the point where it's hard for me to get out of bed unless I have work. I can't brush my teeth, shower, or eat some days because of the sadness that I feel, the depression. I have nightmares at night. I didn't see the accident, but I have nightmares where it's just over and over and over again. And my husband, he has to see me break. I have seen my entire family break. I've broken. At the age of 13, I had to find a way to keep going. In 10th grade, I attempted suicide because I just wanted to see my brother again. The jealousy that I feel because my husband gets to talk to his sister, gets to play video games with his sister. My friends get to complain about their siblings, and I just want to have a conversation with them again. That's all I want to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Reagan.
Good morning. My name is Reagan Foshay. I was best friends with Ricky. We grew up together down the street from elementary, middle, and high school. I am the age close to how old Ricky would be. I am married. I have a fulfilling career. I have a daughter. All of these things that we plan on doing together. We were very close. I was going to attend LSU next year. I became so full of rage and sadness over the total lack of remorse. What happened with Mr. Bowers, the accident. I am now a firefighter paramedic. I run calls regularly for drunk drivers, addicts. I see it firsthand. I run the information pamphlets for St. George Fire Departments to advocate for help for people with addiction. I see the same people every day, nearly every shift. I work 10 days a month at all 6 o'clock. I saw the same woman last night that swore to me that she would not ever touch heroin, fentanyl, anything ever again. Alcoholism is the same way. The reason he is not reoffended is because he has not had the opportunity. The part that bothers me the most is not only that I do not have my best friend here with me anymore, or that I grew up with. It's the total lack of accountability and remorse that he has shown. Whenever he stated he can only imagine what it feels like as if he didn't lose his sister in the same way is appalling and offensive. He has spent years in jail and hasn't had the time to imagine the depth of sadness
and rage and anger he was put us through, and that is unacceptable on every level. Ricky was an outstanding person by every sense of the word. We were very good friends. He was a very caring and smart individual. We were going to attend LSU together. We had plans on raising our children together closely. We have been there for one another throughout the years. And here I am, years later, here for him alone. I ask that until Mr. Bowers can understand what it means to not reoffend and takes a deeper look at alcoholism, so that he doesn't have the opportunity to get out and attend 6 months or so of AA meetings, whatever is mandated by the court, just to get out and reoffend again. I ask that he stays incarcerated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bowers, is there anything you'd like to say to the board before the board votes?
Yes, sir. I do understand the pain they're going through. The fact that I started out by saying I can't imagine it, believe me, I understand it and I can imagine it. And I know that I'm the one that put them through it. But like I was trying to say before, I can't go back and change it. If I could trade places with Ricky, I would. In a minute, in a second. And my family would understand that decision. But I can't do that. The only thing I can do is go forward with my life and try to live a sober and responsible life. That's all I want to do. I want to get out. I want to go home to my family. I want to help them through the tough times we're having. And I just want to be a better person and live a better life. That's the only thing I can do for Ricky at this point. I can't bring him back. I can't erase the pain. The only thing I can do is honor him by living a better life when I get out of it. That's the only thing I can do. It's the only thing I can do for him. I can't save him. I already took him. It's the only thing I can do is be better for him. That's the only thing I can do for him and his family is be better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is Pam ready to vote? Ms. Jackson?
First, I'd like to thank all of our guests for being here. I know it's difficult for you all to be here, especially for Ricky's family and friends. I know this is gut-wrenching for you. And I know that Mr. Bowers' supporters are concerned about him. As I look at this case, Mr. Bowers, as far as DWI offenders are concerned, you don't have the history of DWIs that you often see. You did have a prior one, but it was not far. You've done some things in prison, you've done well and workfully. But for me, you don't think it's enough. I think you should have more programming. And also you have a good time date of 5/22/24. That is 10 months from today. So regardless of what this board were to do today, you will get out on May 22nd, 2004. And you say you don't know what else you could do for the Billingsley family. I would suggest that you could serve out during good time.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that's something that would give them something. There's very little you can give them. But I just think you haven't had enough programming to address your drinking. I don't think you've done victim awareness. And you have a good time date in 10 months. So my vote today would be to deny because of insufficient time served, victim opposition, and need for more programs.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Vice.
Good morning. This is difficult for both sides. I've been sitting here all week and we had a family that was sitting on this side with you. They got up this week and said, when they was asking God about what to do, they said, God told them that God is not just our God. He's the God of both sides. And I hope that helps you. I hope that helps you. It helped me when she said that, to make God's will be done. Mr. Bowers, I concur with my colleague. My vote is to deny. To me, what you can do for this family is do all you can to get moved to Steve Hall. Make a request to leave work release, go to Steve Hall and finish out this time in treatment, sitting on the front row. You're gonna need and do 90 meetings in 90 days when you get out on good time. My vote is to deny as well.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. I also would like to thank the family of the victim who's here today, and I also would like to thank the family of Mr. Bowers who was here today. I do understand both of your positions. These times are very, very difficult for this board, as you might imagine. It was said that Mr. Bowers is not a bad man. One here is judging him as a bad man. And we often don't consider, both Judge Jackson and I were judges for a long time in criminal courts, and we had opportunities to sentence people, a lot of people, to a lot of things. One of the most difficult things I ever had to sentence people were alcoholics, were cases where persons kill someone as a result of alcohol or drugs. I don't think people consider them to be a traditional criminal, but it's a crime. And it's a crime, it causes as much pain as a gun. Alcoholism is a disease. It is not the kind of thing that you can take a class and get better. It's a lifestyle change. It is going to require, Mr. Bowers, every day of your life knowing you cannot drink.
Yes, sir.
I don't think that you've had enough treatment yet. I would like to see you get into the Steve Hall program, Blue Walters program, some program that will give you a significant understanding of your disease. You've been fortunate in that you've never been arrested for other DWIs, but you've indicated you drank 6-pack every day. I suspect that you probably got behind the wheel many, many times under the influence. But fortunately, no one was injured in those. But they were. Likewise, my vote would be to deny, but to encourage you. And I understand you're working, and that's a good thing. But unless you get some real treatment so you can truly understand the disease that you have, in that it's a day after day after day thing, you're going to have to go to AA meetings for the rest of your life, not just for a month or two, but for the rest of your life. Otherwise, something like this could happen again. So my vote, likewise, is to deny.
Thank you, sir.
You have 3 votes to deny your parole. Your parole has been denied with encouragement to get some programs and really understand the disease that you have. So good luck to you.